Okay, welcome. And now we're going to start the last section of Chapter 1 or Unit 1. And it's going to be critical thinking in everyday life. Okay, so a couple of things that we want to go through are a couple of hints that we want to look at. One, read or listen carefully to the article or the person that's talking. Look for hidden assumptions. Okay. Look for things that they're assuming that they're not saying, but they're assuming it by the words that they're using. So we call those hidden assumptions or implied assumptions. Identify the real issue, understand all the options, watch for fine print and missing information. Okay, so again, always want to read the fine print, look for missing information. And other conclusions, are other conclusions possible? Okay, there's usually more than one conclusion. And don't miss the big picture. Okay, so now we want to analyze the following argument. So it says we should build more prisons because incarcerating more criminals will reduce the crime rate. Okay, so what's going on here? It says we should build more prisons. So that's the conclusion. And then because why? Why should we? And then it says incarcerating more criminals will reduce the crime rate. Okay, so let's dissect this a little bit and see what's going on. So we want to write the argument in a conditional statement. So premise, it says if we incarcerate more criminals, then the crime rate will be reduced. Okay. The conclusion, we should build more prisons. So let's see if we can connect the dots, because how do we get from the crime rate being reduced to building that we should build more prisons? Okay, not quite obvious how we get there. So we're going to write some hidden assumptions that are being implied here, some implied assumptions. Okay, so it says we should build more prisons because incarcerating more people will reduce the crime rate. How can we fill this in a little bit? So one hidden assumption is if we build, so they're assuming that if we build more prisons, then more criminals can be incarcerated, right? And if more criminals are incarcerated, then what will that lead to? Well, crime rate being reduced. And what happens if the crime rate is reduced? We'll have a more desirable society. Therefore, one more. If a policy that leads to a more desirable society, then that should be enacted, right? So that leads to the conclusion that obviously we should have a policy to build more prisons, right? So more prisons. So there are three hidden assumptions that were not obviously stated, but were implied by the argument, the premise. Okay, so now here's another one. It says, with last Saturday's sellout crowd at the Moonlight Amphitheater, it is clear that the parking problem has gotten worse. Concert goers parked along residential streets up to a mile away from the amphitheater, badly overcrowding sidewalks, blocking driveways, and disrupting traffic. In light of this parking problem, future concerts should be banned. Okay, let's analyze this argument. So premise, there is a parking problem for concerts at the theater. That's a premise. The conclusion, future concerts at the theater must be banned. Okay? So now the rest of the argument are just reasons why there's a serious parking problem. But is a parking problem really a good enough reason to ban all future concerts? After all, the parking problem could have many other solutions, right? Okay, banning concerts is just one solution, probably not the best solution, because concerts usually bring in revenue for the city. And so the city's probably not going to want to just ban all concerts, probably want to come up with another better solution where it's a win-win all the way around. So, for example, it might be possible to create new parking lots, to use shuttle buses to step enforcement of parking violations, or to encourage carpooling. The weakness of the argument should make us wonder whether the editorial writers are really concerned about parking, or whether they are using the issue to oppose concerts themselves. Or perhaps they are responding to a few vocal residents who complained about the parking problem. So maybe it's a few people and it's really not an issue for most people out there, right? So it's hard to know for sure, but it seems unlikely that parking is the only issue. All right, so here's another one. Let's look at this one. It says Marshall was nearing retirement age and was concerned about his retirement savings. He thought the stock market was too risky, so he put his money into a certificate of deposit, known as a CD, at his local bank. Like most CDs, the one at his local bank was federally insured by the FDIC, which insures all bank deposits in the United States, but its interest rate is quite low. Then he heard about this offer. It says, our certificates of deposit have the highest interest rates. There's an asterisk there. Okay. Whenever there's an asterisk, you want to read what the asterisk is about. So it says, again, our certificates of deposit have the highest interest rates you'll find anywhere, more than double that of most other banks. For a combination of investment, safety, and high interest, there's no better choice. Okay, so there's the advertisement. Now it says at the bottom, it says our high yields come from our unique ability to invest in valuable offshore assets. Okay, so now Marshall transferred all his savings into one of these high yield CDs. 2 years later, the bank offering these CDs failed. Marshall learned that he would not be able to recover any of the money he had lost. So what happened? Okay, so here's where you got to read the fine print. You've got to look for missing information. The reason why he lost his money is because his money was not federally insured by the FDIC. Why? Because FDIC only protects domestic investments, right? Investments in the United States. These investments were in offshore accounts. Now, Marshall should have wondered how one bank could possibly have offered a rate so much higher than other banks. Got to be a reason. Got to find out that reason. 2, the fine print stating that the investments were offshore should have been a clue to the fact that this was not a normal CD. And because the offer did not say that the CD was insured, right? You should never assume that it is. It has to state, right? Look into that stuff. Always look into, trust but verify, right? Is the good saying. All right, that is it. That was short and sweet. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to me. If there's any questions about homework, you get stuck on anything, please let me know. Other than that, that wraps up Unit 1, and next we'll get into Unit 2. Take care and have a great day.